And away we go. As of this recording, I am a few hours until the end of 2025 and about to enter 2026. Now, I can't say things are going to be better than last year, but certainly can't get any worse either. One thing I'll say is that just like the start to every year, every new year is that January a lot of stuff is going to be happening all at once, and everyone's going to react saying, "Oh my gosh, this is a horrible start to the new year. I thought things would be better." So naive. But hey, I was like that myself a few years ago, but now, not anymore. However, hopefully the new year, despite many challenges, it's going to be fruitful. There's going to be positives, there's going to be progress, and of course, whatever is to be called upon and being held accountable for. That doesn't make any sense. Well, the point I'm making is a new year is always one extra chance to make things right. Not always, but try to balance myself to the best of my ability. So yeah, that's the end of that. And maybe 2026 could be the year. Then again, every time people say that, it becomes anything but that. So we'll just have to wait and see. But even things do go wrong, there's always a chance to set things straight. So enough of that. Let's jump into the newscape to see what goes on and such. George and Amal Clooney granted French citizenship after concerns of raising children in Hollywood. On Monday, an official decree seen by AFP confirmed that George Clooney, Amal Alamuddin Clooney, and their two children were granted French citizenship in the journal Officiel. They cited French privacy laws and said their French home is is where we're happiest, emphasizing raising their children away from Hollywood paparazzi, paparazzi with no photographers at school gates. The family includes Ella and Alexander, 8-year-old twins, and they spend most of their time in Domaine du Canadel, a former wine estate in Brignoles, southern France, also owning Lake Como Villa, historic manor in England, New York apartment, and property in Kentucky. The announcement has sparked online debate about movies, and since Monday, George Clooney, actor, has not publicly explained if politics motivated his naturalization. Policy context shows that the Clooneys likely gained citizenship via the Interior Ministry fast-track naturalization scheme, while language requirement changes starting next year may challenge applicants like George Clooney, who admitted limited French after 400 days of courses. I don't blame George for wanting to move his family to another country, whatever the country might be. But of course, who can blame celebrities wanting to move to anywhere else outside of the United States? For whatever reasons, they say what motivated them to move out of the United States. Either way, I think those people are better off just living within another country outside of the US. Maybe in Canada. Canada, it's great. Most of the time, it's great. However, it's too close to home, if you know what I mean. Anyway, back to the story about the Clooneys moving to France. Yeah, fair enough. I can't argue with that. If they want some privacy from the paparazzi or other journalists, go ahead. In fact, out of the people that currently live in Los Angeles and have said that the paparazzi or other journalists that are running amok, trying to, well, ask them anything, but doing anything else other than respecting their way of life and their privacy and such. Why are those celebrities that live in LA, where the paparazzi are very active, why have they decided not to move to any other country? Why are they still staying in Los Angeles? I'm just wondering. There are other countries, and especially other cities in said countries, where there's a much lower cost on property, utilities, and such, better quality of life, and air quality to some extent, I would say. And of course, not to mention, having citizenship from countries may, not always, not there are a lot of passports that doesn't give them visa-free access, but there are some passports where there are more visa-free accesses to those countries by being a citizen of their country than to be a citizen of the United States. Especially countries like Singapore, Switzerland, France, Germany, maybe Norway, and Sweden. Maybe mainly a lot of countries in Western and even Central Europe. So I'm not surprised nor shocked. I understand the celebrity's decision to move to another country, citing privacy concerns, especially with the paparazzi if they used to have lived in Los Angeles. But for all the other celebrities that also bring up the same concern and reason for wanting to move, why haven't they done that yet? Their choice, their life, what they want to do, let them do it. And so on and so forth. Primrose Hill locals slam grotesque barriers stopping New Year's Eve revelers watching fireworks. On Tuesday, Primrose Hill on Camden was closed and locked from 8 p.m. on December 30th until January 1st, with opaque green hoarding and temporary fencing to prevent entry. Royal Parks said crowd management capacity was severely diminished, partially because the Metropolitan Police's Royal Parks Operational Command Unit has closed, and urged people without tickets to make alternative arrangements. Neighbors warned the fencing was an overreaction and said the closure will hurt local restaurants and pubs, with some predicting some people will climb the barriers. Catherine Osiskin, a resident of more than 40 years, called it an overreaction and said the park has never been closed like this. A fourth spokesperson said the closure was a Royal Parks decision, not police, while Commander Nick John urged people not to gather and Scotland Yard confirmed officers would respond to criminality. The Metropolitan Police said 15 officers from the Royal Parks Police Unit were among over 145 deployed to Primrose Hill last year, a similar level to previous years. So why is that? And something's up and something just ain't right when even the locals, who for many decades, let alone years, who do not mind people from wherever they came from to gather around Primrose Hill Park to observe the firework display across the River Thames, observing the London Eye with this fabulous, extravagant firework display. They're saying, you lot are overreacting. Get a freaking grip, man. That's just bizarre, in my opinion. Surely, so, of course, previous years, it has all gone as smoothly as it should, and the residents that live around the area, they don't mind it. In fact, they actually welcome people to come to the area so long as they get something to eat at the local restaurants and pubs in the area, because that's one of the few reasons why local residents want outsiders to even come to their area to begin with, because it gives them a lot of money. Fair enough, I can't argue with that. But whilst this is not to say that the residents are wanting more people to come to the area for the New Year's Eve celebration, the residents' concern is that how this this year's New Year's Eve celebration is going ahead is a bit dramatic, or overreaction, the residents put it. And I'm with the locals on this, not just for the business side of things, but of course, what? Why now? Out of all the previous years and decades of having that particular spot in Greater London for people to observe the firework display every single year on December 31st, why now are you bringing up the barriers? And why are you to tell people that if you don't have a ticket to observe the firework display, you need to go somewhere else to observe the firework display? Come on, like, I may not be from London, and I may not know much about this crap, but if the locals have something to say about it, don't just turn a blind eye on them, or put them under the rug, or whatever saying it is, under the bus. You can't argue with the locals on this. They don't seem to mind what goes on every New Year's Eve, so long as people use their business. But however, whichever authorities are responsible for setting up the viewing point to watch the fireworks display, to have locals say this is an overreaction. Stop overreacting then. The authorities, not the locals. So yeah. But come on guys. You never needed this now. You never needed this years ago. Why need it now? It doesn't make sense. What's the big hubbub? So yeah, that's something and a third thing. Saving for a down payment now takes 7 years, double pre-pandemic pace. Home prices nationally are flat compared to a year ago, but lag behind consumer inflation, implying a decline in inflation-adjusted home values. The typical home buyer now needs 7 years to save for a down payment, down from 12 years in 2022, but double pre-pandemic levels. Pending homes sales rose more than expected in November, hitting the highest level in nearly 3 years, aided by improving housing affordability. I'm not gonna now, even if this is Labour's or the current UK government's working behind the homes somewhat being more affordable now than how many years ago that it says. Not that I'm going to give Labour any credit whatsoever. However, it is something. Out of the sea of horrible policies, initiatives, and laws that Labour wants to pass through the Houses of Commons into the House of Lords, there will come a moment, at least once every year or two, there's always going to be something that Labour can say, hey, we've done this, it's not so bad, it's actually pretty good. But that's not to say that that's not going to convince everyone to like the current UK government. If you pay attention to UK politics and look at the polls, however ago you will last check them, they all know that for the next general election, if it is called sooner than 5 years from the last general election, Reform UK are not just going to get the most votes nationwide, nor will they get the most seats, which they will. They will also have a chance of getting an outright majority in the House of Commons. So, Reform UK can put forward or pass whatever laws or regulations or any policies, whatever they feel like. Well, given existing frameworks, like you have to get a majority of other MPs to approve it as well, and then it has to go through the House of Lords, and then a third process, which I can't fully remember. But yeah, even with that majority Reform UK will get, it's still a lot that is going to get in the way. And I think that's one of the problems that Reform UK is going to face if they are currently on track to win the next general election. they're trying to bring hope to the supporting fan base that they have right now, whether it be from previous Labour voters, the people that voted Tory in the past. I doubt any people from the Green Party switched to Reform. That's very unlikely. It'd be very bizarre that happened. At least one or two people. However, the support for Reform UK is on the rise. It really is. And no matter how horrible and how disastrous or scandalous whatever comes out in the news about Reform UK that would diminish their reputation, they're still going to get the support that they have. And it's going to continue growing, at least gradually. So yeah, enough on that. Back to the story about the home prices and down payments. It's not good. It's not the best, dare I say. However, it's at least decent. It's mediocre at best. It's something. With all the negativity and the disastrous stuff that's really testing our sanity at any point in our lives, this is good enough. That's good enough. It's not the best thing in the world. It's not a miracle, but it is miles better than whatever stories or whatever previous price rises had been in the last couple months, couple years or two. It's something. I'll take that. There's still more work to be done, but it is something, and I will take that. Passport validity update as major changes begin today. British passports are going to have a brand new look from Friday, with a new cover, images, and host of security features. The Home Office said the new passport, the first wholly new design in 5 years, will be the most secure passport ever produced, and will include the latest anti-forgery technology, including new holographic and translucent features. Some 300 of the newly designed travel documents are in circulation, bearing King Charles's emblem on the front and pages inside, depicting nature spots from across the four nations: St. Nevis, the Lake District, Three Cliffs Bay, and the Giant's Causeway. These new features will make passports easier to verify and even harder to forge or tamper with, the Home Office said. Migration and Citizenship Minister Mike Tapp said, "I'm proud to see our new British passports in circulation." Featuring His Majesty's coat of arms and landscapes from all four nations, they celebrate our heritage while delivering enhanced security. They are also the most secure British passports ever produced, helping us protect our borders and deliver outstanding public service. The Home Office said the passports with Queen Elizabeth II's coat of arms remain valid until the expiry date listed inside the passport, but it urged people to check the validity of their passports and apply in good time ahead of planned travel. The first modern-style British passport was issued more than a century ago in 1950, and the first security feature, a watermark, was added in 1972. Since then, dozens of further security measures have been introduced. Well, now before getting into the concerns that I have, just this story in particular, nice to see there is progress to secure and make British passports harder to be forged. I'll give them credit for that to some extent. Now to the concerns. They say with these security features will strengthen and protect the borders of the UK. Where was this a few years ago, back when they were the opposition of the previous Tory government that were in power for the last 14 years before the Labour government came in as it stands now? Why now is the current UK government talking about protecting the borders when many years ago, back when Labour were in opposition, just like many left-wing parties, they are open to the idea of having open borders and allowing foreigners from all backgrounds to come into the country. I don't mind people coming in, just so long as there is documentation and there is all the whatever procedures of migration are followed. Because you never know, regardless of where people are from, once they do get in the UK, and once they've found a home, a roof under their heads, and found a job opportunity that pays them good money to cover the basic necessities that they need for living, what happens to those people in the next few years? And again, I don't want to go against all the foreigners that ever want to come to UK or foreigners wanting to migrate to other countries. My concern is, why do people want to migrate to these countries? And whilst there's going to be foreigners with very valid reasons to wanting to move to said country, what do they know about the country that they're migrating to? The laws that people in that country follow, as well as the customs and culture that the people of the country these foreigners migrate to follow and adhere to for many, many years ago, and still being followed to this day. That's just my thoughts. It's good to see that there is some progress to make passports more secure. Again, why now? Why now are Labour discussing this? Did they discuss this when they were in opposition, back when the Tories were in power? And what difference does these new security features in the UK passports make in regards to future and current migration to the UK? My answer is not so much. Not to say it won't work at all, but the changes to this UK passport only prevents UK passport holders from having their passport either being forged or even have someone trying to pose as one of the UK passport holders, whether they have similar features to the persons whose faces match the photos of the passports, which is identified in these passports, or is it very, very closely identical? Now, of course, people say there's technology that scans your face to see if your face matches the one that's pictured in the passport that you're holding and using to travel. But again, there's other problems regarding face scans in security customs at airports. But I think a lot of people already know too much. They know enough about that. So yeah, I'm beyond what I just said. I'm speechless for the most part. There's nothing else to discuss there. Musk's xAI acquired third building for AI data center. On December 30th, Elon Musk said xAI bought a third building, Macro Harder, to expand infrastructure and will take at xAI training compute to almost 2 gigawatts. 2 gigawatts. xAI plans to expand Colossus supercomputer cluster, Memphis, Tennessee, to house at least 1 million GPUs and expects 2026 conversation start of the newly purchased warehouse near a natural gas power plant near Memphis. The information and routers reported the new building is planned outside Memphis, Tennessee, underscoring xAI's push to compete with OpenAI's ChatGPT and Anthropic's Cloud, while its Colossus cluster is already the world's largest. Environmental activists criticized xAI's expansion due to high energy use, while last month it was reported the company is in $15 billion late-stage funding talks, valuing it at about $230 billion, and did not respond to routers. For investors, the expansion signals rising competitive stakes as the micro-harder building references Microsoft Corp and highlights xAI's push to outpace OpenAI and Anthropic. Why do AI need so much data centers? Why does AI need so much energy to power its operations? You don't hear stories like that in China. Whilst I will say Chinese AI is not the best, however, the amount of power they use, although noticeable, it's not as big as the AI data centers in the US. Whilst tech companies are focusing on AI power, if I was to make an AI, I would focus more on energy efficiency. And then once the AI in question is energy efficient enough, then we can expand its power. These AI data centers are not just taking up all the energy from power plants and such. It's also contributing somewhat to the rise of energy costs on local residents and citizens in countries around the world, especially in the US. They're still going to do it. These companies are still going to build data centers all over the place to power their AIs, and it will already be too late by the time power outages happen all over the place, just like just like the Simpsons once predicted, or even laid out. But at least they will predict. At least what the Simpsons say, it's going to happen eventually in the next few years, like it always does. They always do. Oprah reveals use of GLP-1 medications led to sobriety. On December 30th, Oprah Winfrey told people she stopped drinking alcohol after using GLP-1 weight loss medication, which she began 2.5 years ago. After decades of weight struggle, Winfrey shifted her view and sought GLP-1 treatment after saying she was pre-diabetic with high cholesterol after 211 pounds and collaborated with Dr. Anya Jastreboff on a book due January 13th. After briefly stopping the shots in early 2024, Winfrey regained weight despite diet and exercise and now plans lifelong use with weekly injections and a magnesium supplement and hydration routine. Framing it as a public service, Winfrey urged people with obesity not to blame themselves and said she wants them to have information to choose treatment or dieting, noting partner Stedman Graham had been supportive. With a pill due early 2026, experts note that more than 100 weight loss medications are in development. Well, Dr. Drew said, if we have a medication that can be helpful, by all means, people should be encouraged to think about it. I have two schools of thought on this. On one hand, it's important that people get the medication and or treatment that they ever so require for whatever conditions that people have right now, as well as other underlying illnesses that may come about or happening right now that should be treated as soon as possible. On the other hand, whilst we should listen to healthcare advice to the best of our ability, personally, I wouldn't just take their advice fully just because they say so. If people have concerns about what effects happen in the medications that people get, then do so. By all means, do question health experts, doctors, clinicians, or whoever has any knowledge in medicine, medication, and so on about the effects of the treatment which you are about to get. Because you never know if it's minor or if it's going to be going to have a major impact, not just physically, but also mentally as well. And if there are such effects in such medication or prescription, it is better for people to know that what's going to happen to them than for them then to have these symptoms or side effects to happen to people, and the people that took the medication had no idea those were the effects. If you're going to take anything, if you have any medication or prescription, by all means, do question and ask an expert, a doctor, clinician, your GP, or any other health experts about GLP or other medication or treatments that are available. And even if you do take these medications or prescriptions, do read how often you have to take them. Because if you take one too many, then then it is strictly advised. That's a whole nother can of worms. There's a that is a completely different set of problems altogether. And for anyone to go through that is not good. It's absolutely horrifying. So, again, it is important that you do some research about what you're about to take, your medication or prescription, and ask questions to your experts, to your doctors and clinicians, about the effects in the medication or prescription that you are going to take, or you're currently taking throughout the day or week. It's very important. I cannot stress that enough. So, Warner Brothers expected to reject Paramount's latest hostile bid. CNBC reports. Warner Brothers Discovery is expected to reject Paramount Skydance's amended $108.4 billion hostile bid, despite billionaire Larry Ellison backing the offer with a personal guarantee. Paramount raised its regulatory reverse termination fee and extended its tender offer deadline while keeping the $30 per share all-cash value unchanged, arguing its bid faces fewer regulatory obstacles than Netflix's $82.7 billion rival bidder. The Warner Brothers board previously urged shareholders to reject Paramount's $108.4 billion bid, citing concerns about financing certainty and the absence of a full guarantee from the Ellison family. While analysts say Netflix's $82.7 billion offer offers clearer financing and fewer risks, with a $2.8 billion breakup fee. The expected rejection could keep Warner Bros. Discovery on track to pursue Netflix, while US lawmakers from both parties and President Donald Trump have said they plan to weigh in, increasing regulatory scrutiny. Both Warner Bros. Discovery and Paramount Skydance declined to comment as the $30 per share cash value stayed unchanged, while Paramount raised its regulatory reverse termination fee. They're still going at it. At this rate, they're still going to talk about this. Not much is going to be changed of this as of yet. There's nothing that's going to happen. And if something does come out of this, well, people say that Trump has all the power to do whatever he wants. No, he doesn't. People think he has because of the position, not just the position that he has, but also the recognition that he has across multiple news outlets. And whatever Donald Trump says, people take it for granted. Actually, no. Some people take it for granted. A majority of people take it quite seriously. They either go at him for what he says, or they try and work around it. Those are the two options that people have regarding what Donald Trump says or does, given where he's at right now. Nonetheless, personally, I'd say give it a few more months, no more than 6 months for sure, before a deal is struck between Warner Brothers and, well, whichever bidder wants to take up on the offer and get Warner Brothers. It's looking like Warner Brothers are very valuable with the content that it possesses, and whichever streaming platform does take Warner Brothers on board, so much is going to be done, so dang much. We'll have to wait and see what comes out. of I know Risk 11 for sure really wants Warner Bros. To be taken over by Paramount. I can't argue with that. There's always something going on. Eurostar delays enter second day as passengers stuck on board overnight. Eurostar passengers experienced travel chaos due to a power outage in the Channel Tunnel, causing extensive delays and cancellations on Tuesday. Some travelers reported being stuck on trains for over 6 hours, unsure if they would reach Paris to return to London, as mentioned by a passenger who spoke to the BBC. Eurostar announced plans to run all services on Wednesday, but warned of potential delays and cancellations following the previous day's issues. Getlink confirmed ongoing repair work to resolve the power supply issue that disrupted travel for thousands trying to escape for New Year's Eve. I guess the power outages are on the rise, and it's going to keep on going until eventually it just becomes too hard to ignore. And then world leaders are saying, oh, we need to do this, you need to cut on that, and so on and so forth, which, for the most part, will affect a lot of people's way of life. And I don't think a lot of people would be on board with that, especially given previous incidences about climate change, limiting how much meat we eat, pushing for all electric vehicles to be used by majority of the public, powering stations for the electric vehicles, and of course digital money becoming the new norm as opposed to physical money that we have right now. Just to clarify, digital money is certainly separate to cryptocurrencies. Whilst they're both digital money that is affiliated or connected to a particular country's central bank. That is what's different to cryptocurrencies. There is no centralized control. It is most likely run by some algorithm that dictates how much of a supply of a cryptocurrency is available to the majority of the public. So anyway, back to Eurostar delays and onboard overnights. Something very unfortunate. I hope the passengers on Eurostar can get to where they want to be just in time for New Year's Eve. Mostly not. However, again, one can hope to enjoy this closing to 2025, no matter how chaotic it has been for all of us. Again, not saying 2026 is going to be any better, but surely it cannot be any worse than it is right now. Certainly not. But one thing's for sure, January is going to be chaotic, like has been every year. Just so it gets people online hectic about what happened to New Year, New Me, and I thought things are going to be different. Why is why is so much chaos happening in January and such? Why is so many chaos happening in this new year that we just entered? So yeah, I'll be preparing myself to see such reactions when it comes about next month, or at least until the end of January. Classic, every single time. So yeah, happy 2025, folks, and that is it for this episode, and that is it for 2025.